international communications that we do as a country to the United Nations is a very good policy document. And we made substantial contributions through some of our studies on climate change, climate vulnerability, climate adaptation into that, as well as I also spoke about the Paris Agreement. Digital Youth Village, as you can see, is still under construction. We've had officials of the president, I'm sure you are aware of the president's 1 million coders initiative. So they have plans to use some of our facilities at the new Tema Learning Center here on campus, and eventually move it to the Digital Youth Village. Professor George Bennett is, for me, the one that was my main mentor at the beginning when I started my career at the Cooperation Pact Project. And then when he left and assumed the position of the Vice-Chancellor, then Professor John Nabila also took over. And he is also one of my mentors. I also want to mention Emerita Professor Elizabeth Adefi Shandoff, who has been like a mother to me. Really followed my career, and for most of the applications I have made for positions, she has been the one who has provided me with references for that. And I'm very grateful for some of them. Aside that, I can also mention Professor Francis Dodu, who was former Pro Vice-Chancellor here for research as well. He did a lot of work at RIPS, which brought RIPS back to the limelight, and it was very easy for me to now also follow. I can talk of Professor Ayi, Professor Tevia, Professor Stephen Kwanchi. These are Professor Nefi. These are all people that I've had the opportunity to work with in my area. And I feel privileged to have been under their mentorship. I lost my dad many years ago, but my mom is still alive. I acknowledge all the roles they have played in my life, my sister, and then other sisters, and then of course the immediate family, my wife, who has been like a pillar to me, and then the children that have also always inspired me. So I acknowledge all of them and all the wonderful friends and international collaborators that I've had over the years.
I've had a close working relationship with Professor Nii Ardey Codjoe for the past 4 years. Prior to that, I had a brief interaction with him when he used to be the director of the Regional Institute for Population Studies. I would say he's somebody who is very down to earth, very humble, and accepts everybody in the college, irrespective of the rank or a category of staff. He works with everybody and has a very good relationship with all categories of employees of the college.
He is so much fun to work with. I mean, no downtime. Hardworking, very, very innovative. He's sure to get things done. He's modest. And what I like about him is his open door policy. You can get him anytime. Always welcome. Very approachable. And I must say that his appointment to the Pro Vice's position is a good thing, and his ability to show his promotion to full professorship through the inaugural lecture is something I'm sure we all enjoy.
He maintains friendships, and he always acknowledges his gratitude to whatever anybody puts in to get him where he is. He has worked hard and has done well in grantsmanship, bringing different kinds of grants, working with younger colleagues, propping them up, and he develops the qualities in young people he has trained.
He's somebody who inspires a lot. He always wants the best for his constituents, especially the staff. He always wants you to better yourself in terms of education. He's a very good boss. He's lovely to work with, and you can go to him with anything.
One quality of him is he's a go-getter. That's anything he sets his eye to do or he sets his mind to do, he wants to go to get it. Until that fulfillment comes in for him, he doesn't relent in ensuring that he gets the best out of his staff, especially coming to the college. He has been a transformative leader, yes, for which many of my other colleagues could attest to that.
For me, the friendship between us means so much to me. The friendship. The marriage, for me, the marriage is different. But the friendship between us, it surpasses everything for me. I always see you as my friend. I can come to you with anything. I can talk to you about everything. I laugh with you. I cry with you.
Once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we prepare to begin this evening's lecture, please take note of the following announcements. Please note that the female washroom is to my right, which is your left, and the male washroom is to my left, which is your right. Also, I'm excited to inform you that the lecture will be streamed live on the UG YouTube channel. So kindly prompt friends and family who couldn't join us here to watch the live stream. Please contact our ushers who are dressed in the white shirt and t-shirt, others dressed in the black dress and the UG scarf for assistance when you need something. Thank you. Also, there's a QR code for those of us who couldn't get hard copies of the program brochure. You could kindly scan that and have soft copies of the program as well. Thank you. Please rise for the academic procession.
Please resume your seats. Madam Vice-Chancellor, Pro Vice-Chancellors, Provosts, Deans, Directors, and other officials of the University of Ghana, both past and present, members of convocation, students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to you all. Hello, good evening. I welcome you warmly to the Great Hall. I also acknowledge all those who have joined us online. We are delighted that you are all able to join us for this evening's inaugural lecture, be delivered by Professor Samuel Nii Ardey Codjoe of the Regional Institute for Population Studies, who is also the Pro Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation, and Development. Inaugural lectures are a significant tradition and part of the university's calendar. And every academic who rises to the rank of professor is expected to deliver an inaugural lecture. This offers the university the opportunity to recognize and showcase the academic achievements of its faculty and also enables professors to share their research with colleagues within and outside the university and to enable the lecturer celebrate this milestone with family and friends. I am pleased to introduce the chairperson for today's inaugural lecture. Our chairperson is Professor Nana Aba Appiah-Amfu, the first female Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana. He is a professor of linguistics, an accomplished administrator, and brings over 2 decades of experience in the higher education sector. Within the University of Ghana, he has held several key leadership positions, including Pro Vice-Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, founding Dean of the School of Languages, and Head of Department of Linguistics. As Vice-Chancellor, he is championing the integration of technology across universities' operation while ensuring that people remain at the heart of its mission. Professor Amfu has received numerous accolades for her contributions to education, leadership, and empowerment of women. He has recently been appointed chair of the Worldwide University Network. He is chair of the Council of the Association of Commonwealth Universities and is the Association of African Universities Ambassador for Gender Equity and Social Inclusion. She is the founding president of African Humanities Association and president of the International Federation of Modern Languages and Literatures. Additionally, she serves as vice chair on the board of African Research Universities Alliance. He is a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences and an active member of many esteemed academic and professional organizations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me welcome Professor Nana Aba Appiah-Amfu, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana and chairperson for this evening's lecture.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar, Pro Vice-Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, who I believe is online, our distinguished lecturer, Professor Samuel Nii Ardey Codjoe, registrar, provost, deans, directors, and heads of department, former senior officers of the University of Ghana, members of the diplomatic corps, esteemed traditional rulers, eminent clergy, corporate executives, faculty, staff, and members of convocation, alumni and students, family and friends of the lecturer, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen from the press, our distinguished virtual and in-person audience, good evening to you all. It gives me immense pleasure to preside over this inaugural lecture to be delivered by none other than one of my two deputies and a member of the university's senior management team, Professor Samuel Nii Ardey Codjoe, who recently assumed office as Pro Vice-Chancellor with responsibility for research, innovation, and development. I congratulate him on his appointment and wish him every success as he provides strategic leadership for one of the university's key portfolios. It is particularly gratifying that, even as he assumes this significant responsibility, we have the opportunity to celebrate another important milestone in his distinguished academic journey, his inaugural lecture. This is a fitting testament to decades of scholarship, research, and service. Long before humanity learned to read books, we learned to read nature. The skies foretold the coming of the rains, the rivers signaled abundance or scarcity, and the behavior of birds, insects, and trees guided decisions about farming, health, and survival. Across generations, these observations developed into knowledge systems that sustained communities and shaped civilization. Today, as climate change presents one of the defining challenges of our time, that accumulated wisdom invites renewed attention alongside modern science. Today's lecture, Reading the Skies and Healing in the Land, Climate, Indigenous Knowledge and Health, is therefore deeply relevant. At a time when climate change is reshaping ecosystems, livelihoods, and health outcomes across the world, the lecture reminds us that effective responses will require more than scientific innovation alone. They will require us to recognize the value of knowledge accumulated over generations through close interaction with the environment, and to explore how such indigenous knowledge can complement scientific evidence in strengthening climate adaptation, disease prevention, and resilient health systems. Ladies and gentlemen, before we hear the lecture, permit me to introduce our distinguished lecturer. And I'm going to read an abridged version of his profile. He's been begging me to keep his profile to only 2 paragraphs. And if you have an idea of how long his profile is, you will start to pray for me. Professor Samuel Nii Ardey Codjoe is a distinguished professor of population studies at the Regional Institute of Population Studies and Pro Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Development at the University of Ghana. He is the immediate past provost of the College of Education, a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, and a visiting fellow at Loughborough University, UK. He holds a BA in Geography and Resource Development from the University of Ghana, an MPhil in Human Geography from the University of Oslo, and a PhD in Geography with a minor in Soil Science from the University of Bonn. His professional training includes natural resource management, GIS and remote sensing, climate modeling, econometrics, development studies, and research supervision. Joined the University of Ghana in 2004 and rose to professor in 2015. Subsequently served as Deputy Director and Director of RIPS and as Vice President and President of the Union of African Population Studies. As Director of RIPS, Professor Codjoe strengthened the Institute's research capacity, financial sustainability, and international profile. As President of UAPS, led major governance and financial reforms, doubled membership from about 1,000 to 2,000, and restored donor confidence. Professor Codjoe is an accomplished researcher in climate change, population dynamics, migration, health, food security, and sustainable development. He established and led the Climate Change Research Group at RIPS and served as principal investigator or co-investigator on 25 major research projects, helping attract nearly 40 million USD in research funding to the University of Ghana. He has supervised and mentored research fellows, postdoctoral researchers, 35 PhD students, MPhil, and MA students, many of whom now hold influential positions both home and abroad. He has published extensively and supported research through scholarships, fellowships, seed grants, and conferences, including 7 climate change and population conferences in Accra. As Provost of the College of Education, Professor Codjoe championed growth in research, academic development, infrastructure, and institutional visibility. Externally funded research grants increased more than 3-fold, while active grant holders doubled. He established the Legon Center for Education Research and Policy, promoted collaborative research, secured major externally funded projects, and strengthened scientific writing and research capacity. And these are some of the many things that he did at the College of Education. Professor Codjoe has provided extensive service to the University of Ghana through numerous committees, boards, and governance structures, including major assignments in governance reform, infrastructure, security, strategic planning, appointments and promotions, and student affairs. Beyond the university, he has served on national, continental, and international bodies. His international standing is reflected in editorial roles with journals, including Regional Environmental Change, Plus Climate, and Frontiers in Climate, as well as its involvement in accreditation, doctoral examinations, academic promotion reviews, and IPCC-related scientific assignments. His honors include the IUSSP Junior Demographer Prize, University of Ghana Best Researcher Award for the Social Sciences, prestigious German and Norwegian scholarships, and several leadership and service awards. Born to Mr. James Emmanuel Kweku Codjoe, deceased, and Madam Regina Na Ayikoko Ayi, Professor Codjoe is married to Mrs. Gertrude Akosua Nyantechua Ardey Codjoe, and they have 5 children: Marilyn Ajua, Nii Sessa, Kelvin Nii Ardey, Brian Nii Ba, and Caitlin Na Ayikoko. He is an active member and marriage counselor of Living Streams Baptist Church and enjoys football, tennis, and motorcar racing. What I don't know is whether he enjoys playing or watching these. Overall, Professor Samuel Nii Ardey Codjoe's career exemplifies excellence in scholarship, research, mentorship, leadership, public service, and institutional transformation, establishing him as an African scholar and a higher education leader. Ladies and gentlemen, the full profile can be found in the brochure, and I encourage you all to make time and read it in full. It is now my pleasure to invite Professor Samuel Nii Ardey Codjoe to deliver the lecture titled Reading the Skies and Healing the Land. I see that you are very eager to listen to him. But at least let me finish with the title of his lecture. And that is Reading the Skies and Healing in the Land, Climate, Indigenous Knowledge, and Health. Like you, I envisage a very insightful lecture. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Goro seprewa kakra. Debusa sana seprewa na yedi. Seprewa is made up of 3 Akan words. Se literally means speak. Ubi kasana wantia ubi sana se na se. Touch but small. Seprewa na se chirane se adeketwa prekasa. This small instrument speaks when it is touched. It was discovered around 1600. And this is the soul of our Ghanaian highlight music. When you're baby, I say, as you are pomu ham kwa. I just say university, Mumon Sama University. Prof, untina mawaha. I am I swear for a more hay. Indigenous champagne, I'm a munina quaba. And then I see you, I'm in your answer. You were doing for a day. I hear you, and then I sink with you. Tears with you. See, I tear when you go pointing. I tears here. Assure me with any moment I hear yanka. And I'm son with your mouth. Enough which Yamamre. And I see a bishop more. And ye be before fraud. As you are playing one, I'm a minute. Send it probably one woman day. Now I do my sooner. I would be a different no. Flower being for Professor. See the man who just away and want you man's Prof, money on my power. And I'm also many baby. Now can it be none so? And you need that so no. And no my why. I'm a nipper be a bushing up on no. I bear a contract for. What a temper for baby. Professor Eddie. Bamene and then Sabra. Any baby idea no say, yeah, you know, any baby son come for I come for no money. Oh, any baby was assassin and send them a me and one not quite high. Your funeral war. And then I said, you them free. Why, can he? Oba pay. Oh, mo. Baby, I'm a Professor Flower, Yana Eden Cacao. Oh, money, Jumapa. ɛnyɛ workshop or conference. I external examiner. Workshop mu ahodoɔ, research ahodoɔ. Ne nyinaa na ɔbɛyɛ ayɛ din. Ɔbaapa mo ne adwuma pa. Saa ne ɛyɛ no. Abɔsoba na me egya payɛ. Pɛmpɛn so a wɔdre na nya wo mo a ka ɔbɛyɛ dɛn. Tie mo no ma. Sua nyinaa da mo ase. Ɔbɛmfo, ɛbɛrɛ no wɔduru sɛ woba wɔ na ɔbɛkasa. Ghana de hyia nyinaa hyia. Ɛntentan fidie yi nso enipa bebree a bɛhwɛ wo. Asuapɔn sɛ me na wase wahyia me nyama me bia ka Ghana. Adura bibire mu. Me bia kwa amanone. Tia momo. Oh money yo. Ya chadodo wahu. Ente me de besia. Just say ye me na sabre. Enti kasa kasa obemfo kasa ebra no dro be me na e kasa ni kasa
Thank you very much, Mr. Osei Kranchi. And I'm Vice-Chancellor. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen gathered here. This evening, I will be presenting to you on the topic, Reading the Skies and Healing in the Land, Climate, Indigenous Knowledge, and Health. The outline of my presentation will be as follows. I will talk about what climate change is, that is the causes and consequences scientifically. And then I'll look at what climate change is to the Ghanaian, the average Ghanaian. Then I'll go on to look at the concept of reading the skies and show you what indigenous weather monitoring systems are used. I'll proceed to let you have an idea of some experiences of climate change in homes and public places. Guess we've lost the feed. Very sorry for that. And then I will talk about impacts of climate change on two diseases, namely schistosomiasis and cerebrospinal meningitis. I'll talk also briefly on climate change and healthcare provision in Ghana. And then I'll show a few climate change interventions we've done in the communities, and I'll conclude. So, Madam Chair, I start with displaying this map, and this map shows the areas in which we have undertaken our studies across the country. And so if you look towards the Boku East area, we've worked in Pusiga, Boku, Kadi, Denugu, and then in the Navrongo area, we worked in Navrongo, Vunania, Nayania, in Tamale, Gumani, Wodke, Kuku, and Lamashegu. And then in the Wenchi area, Boku, and then we went as far as Banda, which is close to the dam. And then the front plains is where I've done a lot of my studies in communities like Mami Krobo, Mimchemfre, Wachikrom, Hejojoy Kope, Echiamamfrom. It's like a second home to me. And then here in the Gamashi area and the Greater Accra metropolitan area, where I will be presenting works from Ubum, Codjoe, Ashong, Alajo, Odona, Buglushi, Ashatown, Jamestown, Botiano, Glefe, and Empoasi. So let me start with the greenhouse gas effect and why we worry about climate change. As you look at the diagram to the left, it shows the natural greenhouse effect. And then to the right, it shows the human enhanced greenhouse effect. Now, what is happening there is that, as you can see, there is the sun, which produces the solar radiation, and here is the earth. And then there is also a layer here of greenhouse gases. These are mainly carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. And then, of course, there is the atmosphere. Okay. So what is happening here is that the sun radiates to the earth. Now, when the sun's radiation hits the earth, there is some of the heat that is re-radiated back to space. Now, this process is a natural process, and it is very important. Otherwise, if we don't have this process, the earth will be too cold for human existence. And so it is a natural process that has to go on. Now, as the radiation is going back to space, there is some of the radiation that is re-radiated back to the Earth's surface. Now, if you look to the right, you have the human enhanced greenhouse effect. Okay, so the same process is going on. But what has changed here is if you look at the thickness of the layer of the greenhouse gases that I mentioned, you can see now it has become much, much thicker as compared to the one that is here for the natural greenhouse gas effect. And so this is where the problem is. We have accumulated a lot of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So the sun is still radiating to the earth, and there's still re-radiation going back to space. But what is happening now is that the re-radiation that is going back to space, there are cuts in it. And so there is a bit more radiation back to the Earth's surface. And this is why the Earth is becoming warmer. So we say global warming. And once this happens, it has effects on hydrological cycles and global cycles. And this is why we are experiencing some of the extreme heat and the flooding issues, which I'll talk to you about this evening. Now, so as I promised you, let's look at the scientific perspectives as far as the causes and consequences of climate change is concerned. So we have the natural causes, which is volcanic eruption, that can be solar activity or orbital changes. And then there is what we call anthropogenic. Anthropogenic just means humans. Okay, so some of our activities, that is burning of fossil fuel, deforestation, agriculture, including livestock production. And as you may be aware, where we have huge herds of cattle, when they in their droppings, they emit methane, which is one of the greenhouse gases I spoke to you about. And there's also industrial activities as well as waste disposal. Now, what are the scientific consequences of climate change? First, you have the increase in average surface temperatures that we are experiencing now, increase in precipitation that is manifesting through flooding, and then, of course, sea level rise. Now, I turn my attention to look at what does climate change mean to the average Ghanaian? Now that we know the scientific perspective, what does it mean to the Ghanaian? For us to be able to do this, we have to use some ethnographic methods, because as you all know, not all Ghanaians can read and write. And so for some of them, the mental models they had, we made them to put them in either drawings. So as you see on the left here, you can see at the center, there is climate change. And to the left, there are the causes, and to the right, there are the consequences. So this is what the average Ghanaian said about what climate change is. And this activity was undertaken in Memchemfre in the Afram Plains district as far back as August 2007. Now, the main issues I want you to take away is the fact that reference to climate change to the average Ghanaian connotes the weather, rainfall, or temperature. So in actual fact, if you ask the average Ghanaian about what climate is, they will not talk about the climate. They are going to talk about the weather. They will tell you today the weather is, well, today it's a bit cloudy, or today is warm, or today is rainy, or today is sunny. That is what the average Ghanaian will tell you, what the weather is. But that is not climate change. Climate change is an aggregation of the weather conditions for a period of maybe 30 years. So today's weather being hot, dry, cold, rainy, etc., etc. If you put all together for a period of 30 years, then you get what the climate is. Now, how do Ghanaians refer to climate change? Having said this to you and the kinds of concepts they have. In Akan, they say and you must help me here. You know, my wife normally doesn't want me to speak Akan in public because she says I sound awful when I do that. But I try, you know, and I think you should give me credit. So it's not easy. So the Akan say, Afi afimu nsakraye. I hope it's fine. Okay, so climate change to the Akan is Afi afimu nsakraye. What is Afi afimu nsakraye? Let's say, okay, I hope you understand. Okay, and the Gans also say, Koyo mlinchakemo. Koyo mlinchakemo. Koyo eminchake. And then the others, here I don't think I will need any help at all. They say, here he fe totro. Okay, so I'm now going to show you some causes and consequences of climate change to the Ghanaian, having all this at the back of our minds. So we ask the communities in which we work what the causes of climate change are. And these are some of their findings. Somebody said it's the construction of the Akosombo Dam. And I'm like, oh, Akosombo Dam. Somebody said tree cutting, charcoal production, bushfires, and then those of you who are interested in this, palm wine tapping. Somebody said palm wine tapping is the cause of climate change. And as you can see, there's a lot of burning or smoke related to burning issues, because we also did part of our studies here in Accra, in the Agbogbloshing, Old Fadama area. So burning from electrical gadgets, burning from ties, from industry, from second-hand clothes and rubbish dump were given as causes of climate change. Somebody even said radiation from our mobile phones and sun winning along beaches. But there are those who also have the belief that climate change is as a result of the abandonment of traditional practices and as a punishment from God for the things that we do as a country. Now, I want you to note that in all these causes they mentioned, there was no reference to emissions from industries in the global north, and which has been the main cause of climate change globally. So the danger here is that communities blame themselves for events like irregular rainfall, of which they may have no solutions. They also identified some positive and negative consequences of climate change, and I will just go through briefly a few. So as far as heavy rains concerned, they identified positive things. So for example, they say it washes filth in community drains. And this should be a red flag for us. I hope you know why I'm saying that. Because when communities think that when it rains, it will flush the rubbish from their gutters, then that's why they come out and they start monitoring. Immediately it's about to rain, then they go into their houses, bring their rubbish and dump them into the gutters. Some of these things are happening in this country right here in Accra. They also say it cools the sea for high fish harvest. It cools weather and so drives mosquitoes. It's good for hydropower generation and irrigation, which are all good things. But they also identified negative consequences of heavy rains. For example, it causes floods, destroys life and property, and then the stagnant water also can cause typhoid fever, cholera outbreaks, and malaria, and it destroys farms and farm produce. Now, as far as excessive heat is concerned, they also spoke about some positive effects. For example, it's good for rheumatism patients, it's good for solar energy production, it's good for salt production, and for drying of fish and crops. And they also identified the negative consequences. That is, it causes flu, headaches, fever, and convulsion, causes skin rashes, bushfires, droughts. It drives fishes into deep waters, and so on and so forth.
Now, I'm going to show you a few images of impact of climate change in this country. As we traveled around the country and did our research, we took some of these pictures. So I'll just share them with you. I first show you this we call marine transgression in Jamestown, Accra. I'm showing this picture because we took this picture right by the lighthouse. Those of you who are very familiar with Accra, if you look around here, maybe it's not so visible from where you are, but there is a canoe around that area. Now, what the community, the elderly people in the community told us was that when they were small, they used to play football. They used to go as far as that place to play football. But now, the sea has taken it all over. This is the remains of the Adam post office, ladies and gentlemen. In 2008, we used this road. And even at that time, there was a sign that danger, road washout ahead, slow down and keep left. 2 years later, we used that same road, and the road was completely washed out, as they have predicted. And it has downed all the power lines. So my colleague, Apieniado, and his friends have estimated that erosion from the sea is at a rate of, in Ada area, about 3 to 6 meters per year. And in the Keta area, about 4 to 8 meters per year. I'm sure you all know how to calculate a meter. If you stretch your leg and stretch it very wide, it's about a meter. So do that and walk for about 3 or 4 steps. That is, and so from here, I'm sure it will go to where Madam VC is sitting, or even more. And that is the amount of land that the sea is taking every single year. So you can calculate this happening for the next 50 years. I'm sure it will go as far as around Hachu area. And this is a serious issue. Now, we also, with the work we did in the communities, we did what we call historical matrix of extreme climate events. And what I want to say here is that in Ghana, we are facing what we describe as the triple bedding. The triple bedding. Because we are facing a bedding from floods, we are facing a bedding from drought and heat, and then we are also facing a bedding from tidal waves. You see, right now, we are in August. Madam VC. We are in August. And it's supposed to be cold. But you see, Madam Chair, you still have that your device. You know, these days, the ladies, they have their device that they use when they are, I don't know, maybe, not for my wife, maybe it's not to spoil the makeup and all that. But I don't know if it's also, but it's because of the heat. As I was sitting right here, it was very warm. But this is August. And what we are all forgetting about is just around March or April, the heat that we experienced in this country was unbearable. To the extent that there was a time I went home, and in the room, Madam said, the room is hot. And I said, oh, but the room is not hot. And then she said, the room is hot. And I said, but the room is not hot. And she said, but this room is hot. It was there that I realized that, there may be some physiological or some mental, I don't want to mention the other words, going on. But I can tell you, maybe some of you are not going to admit, especially the gentlemen here, but the heat in around March, April is really a problem. Sometimes if you are getting close to the madams, I'm sure it may affect coital frequency in this country and probably increase the rate of divorce. But Madam Chair, I had a shock of my life when I saw a gentleman also sitting in an audience and holding that your thing. And I was like, oh, please. Ardey. Ardey. Charlie, go and put that thing somewhere. What is this? You two, are you experiencing the heat? So the point I'm making is that this triple bedding has come to stay with us. And whether we like it or not, we have to be able to adapt. And it was interesting because we made the community members to recall some of these extreme events. And it will surprise you that when we compare them with the meteorological data, they fitted perfectly. So if you take floods, for example, it's not a new phenomenon in this country, especially in Accra. As far back as 1935, we experienced the first major flood in Accra, and subsequently in 1968. But other flooding events were 1995, 4th to 5th July, where Accra experienced about 258 millimeters of rain, and that's a lot. And then, of course, the 2015 June 3rd disaster. I don't want to remind victims and their families of that, but that single event, we lost more than 150 of our compatriots, and it displaced over 8,000 people. The most, and don't forget also 2023, the Akosombo and Kpong issues. In that season, they had 1,000 millimeters of rain. And then just recently, 29th of June, 2026, we all saw what happened in Accra. Now, as far as the heat is concerned, the one in the middle, the significant events have been in 1983, the nationwide drought. I remember, and I was telling a story at my exhibition. I remember I was then at the Sum Secondary Technical School. And as you all know, those of you who were alive at the time or were born by that time, there was massive famine in this country. So what me and some of my friends used to do is we will go to the pantry in the evenings and steal kondo and go and use it to prepare banku and eat. That was how bad the situation was in 1983. Then in 2016, there was excessive heat, which had about 140 cases of meningitis and 32 deaths. But the tidal waves, we should also not forget about it, because it has also occurred since the 1960s. If you go to areas like Keita, Anglonga, and Agaveji, they have been experiencing these sea erosion, sometimes inundations, and then recurrent tidal waves. Now, I show you this image of Chief Ransford's record. And I'm showing it to you because who says that community people are not knowledgeable and community people do not track some of these data or information that our meteorological people do? Chief Ransford lives in a place called Mami Krobo in the Afram Plains. When we encountered him, he had this exercise book, and he has records in the exercise book. A page of that book is what I'm showing you here. Now, what is in there? You will see blue pen markings of dates, and you also see red pen marking of dates. Now, what Chief Ransford does is that after every rain event, he has a particular place in his compound. So he will take his cutlass and go and stick it into that place and push it down as hard as he can. When he lifts it up, he will look at the markings on the cutlass. If the markings on the cutlass is as the size of his middle finger, he will record, or more, he will record it as a significant rain event and record it in red pen. But if the marking is less than his middle finger, he will record it in blue and say that it's a normal rain event. And I'm sure when we compared Chief Ransford's record with the meteorological record, it fitted perfectly. In fact, his record shows 21 significant rain events in 43 days between August 21st and October 2nd, 2007. This actually collaborated with what the meteorological data reported, and it also showed that there was evidence of floods in the Afram Plains community. We've published this in a climatic change, and we celebrated Chief Ransford in a number of the Conference of Party climate change meetings. So who says that community people do not know how to track and monitor these issues? I now turn my attention to the topical issue, reading the skies. I've had a number of telephone calls of people asking me what these reading the skies mean. People, they ask whether it is about magic or whether it is about sorcery. It is not. It is about indigenous knowledge, and it is defined as place-based knowledge that is rooted in local cultures and generally associated with long-settled communities which have strong ties to their natural environment. This knowledge is place, time, and culture specific, and the result of accumulated experience of a people regarding their natural environment that has been handed down from one generation to the next. So in regions or geographical localities of the world with paucity of scientific data on weather and environmental change observation, indigenous knowledge will fill this gap in information. So, reading the skies is about indigenous weather monitoring systems. Because when communities read the skies, they draw on a rich body of indigenous environmental knowledge, turning clouds into calendars to anticipate seasonal changes, protect their livelihoods, and safeguard their health. And so I show you some of the indigenous weather monitoring systems we have in this country. So for example, in June, when you hear the sound of frog, it means there will be normal to heavy rainfall, expected within 2 to 3 days. If you see a dark moon in May, it will be normal rainfall. But if you see a bright moon in May, then there will be no rains. If you see crows flying from the east, or cowbirds flying across either May, June, or May, July, it's an indication of heavy rainfall. Anytime there is rainbow after rains, it means that's the end of the rains. And if there's a rainbow May to July, it means there will be no rains for 3 to 4 days, even if it is in the major rainy season. Now, there's this muddy sea with jellyfish. In fact, the Ghanaians call it in Shogugon. If you see in Shogugon around July or August, it is a sign of good rains. And if you see ants carrying their food into holes in May and June, it is an indication that there will be heavy rainfall within 1 to 2 weeks. So, Madam Chair, who says that community people are not able to track these weather monitoring systems? These are systems they have used. They are tried and tested over the years. Now, let me move on to look at experience of climate change in homes and public places. And this time I will be looking at heat, extreme heat. This is because millions of people are already exposed to deadly heat. But this hazard is expected to become more frequent and severe. Despite such concerns, little is known about extreme indoor temperatures in the global south and in urban areas. But we also know that there are many factors that affect indoor temperatures. For example, the type of wall or roof and floor materials that you have. It could be your roof pitch and reflectance, or it could be the kind of ventilation we have. And this is a big, big problem in this country. And I'll talk to you about that. Ventilation. Because what is happening now is that we are all sealed our rooms. We have sealed our rooms. And for there are some of us who can afford air conditioning. So if you can afford air conditioning, then you can seal your room and be in there. But the unfortunate thing is that when you go to some of these communities, these people cannot afford air conditioning. Yet, because maybe it's about modernity and it's about something in vogue, then they have also sealed their rooms. And their rooms are baking like the sun, and they are in there. It's a problem for Ghanaians. Your indoor temperature can also be affected by the kind of shade you have, local breeze, proximity to a water body, and then the urban heat island. So in this study, we selected 4 communities in Accra and 4 in Tamale. And we installed 131 what we call tiny tags. And these are capable of, we install them within homes and hospitals. And they are capable of recording air temperature every 10 minutes. So I show you an image of the tiny tag. You can see how we've hung one of them in somebody's roof or thatch. Now this device, it blinks in the evening. So by the time we finish our study, 6 of them were stolen. And then, at the time we were also undertaking this study, Anas, I'm sure you all remember, he has also come up with this expose. So it was very difficult to install this in the hospitals because the nurses were not so sure whether This was a camera device. But we had to go through a lot of ethical issues to be able to do the study. So these are some of the locations within the Tamale area. You can see those small yellow pins. Those were the houses we took the data. And then we even put one near the Stevenson screen at the Tamale airport, just to compare what was happening at the meteorological sites and what people actually were experiencing. These are some of the results. Madam Chair, these are some of the high temperatures people are experiencing in Accra. If you look at this woman to the left, this cooking area, I think this is like a Kenke factory. She's experiencing 48.1 degrees. And then somebody's living room, 45.5 degrees. And this cinema, where you have all these young boys crowding in there to watch Champions League or Premier League. These days, they don't watch the Ghana Football League. And I'm wondering why. No, every Ghanaian is now a supporter of either Liverpool or something. I myself included. Although my football team in Ghana is Accra Great Olympics, the Wonder Club of Ghana. How many people are here? Oh, only that day. We have a lot of accolades. In fact, we are the Wonder Club of this country, whether you like it or not. And I'm saying this world was experiencing 33.8 degrees, but look at this touch, 30.9 degrees Celsius, significantly lower. This may be giving us a pointer. Now let's look at Tamale. In Tamale, this blacksmith shop, we recorded 61 degrees Celsius. It's unimaginable. In fact, I couldn't think far. Because 61 degrees, I couldn't imagine. So I inputted it into AI. To find out, I asked AI, if somebody is experiencing 61 degrees, how would it feel? And the AI itself was confused. He said, what do you mean? Do you mean air temperature or do you mean? I'm sure the AI itself was collapsing. It's incredible. 61 degrees Celsius. But this old man, was working in this shop. And then AI said, it's like this device, the hair dryer, the woman used to blow their hair, So 61 degrees is like when you are using that to blow your body. Instead of your hair, you are using it to blow your body. That's how it will feel. And then the person will not be able to breathe normally. And the person, if they continue to experience that temperature, they die very soon. But this old man is like in his 60s, so I don't know what is happening. But then you can see some other, but take note of these. In a workshop, this is a seamstress, 50.3 degrees. So if you go to a place, you are supposed to work and you are experiencing this temperature, how much work can you do? The little thing you do, you get exhausted. And then there's the Nocturnal Heat Island. This is the Agbogloshi area. You see what we have done in this country. We have taken away all the green grass and we are doing paving. We are paving. Whether we are paving with these blocks or we are paving with tiles, and we are paving everywhere. It's a big, big problem because one of the effects is the Nocturnal Heat Island. Because what happens is that in the evenings, this will trap the heat. It will trap the heat and it will keep them in your rooms. This is the problem we have to grapple with. So what were our findings? Madam Chair, we discovered that conventional dry bulb air temperature measurements at meteorological stations significantly underreport as high as 10 degrees Celsius the extraordinary indoor temperatures faced by some households. So if you wake up in the morning and the meteo people are telling you that today the temperature is 26 degrees, please add plus 10, make it 36, because that's what you have experienced in your room. It's not what the meteo people are saying. Yet, such station data are routinely used as reference points for heat wave forecast and climate change studies. Our study shows that even though tree shade reduces insolation, that's the incoming solar radiation, this option is not always feasible within the dense urban fabric of informal settlement. So look at Agboshin area, for example. Where can you plant a tree? Furthermore, there are taboos against tree planting among some communities in northern Ghana, and they act as a deterrent. In fact, in Tamale, we were told that it is a taboo to plant a tree, because if you plant a tree, you have to make sure that you nurture the tree to grow. Because if you don't, and the tree dies, you are also going to do what? So people in Tamale, they were told they don't like planting trees. But yet, we are seeing from the information I'm providing you the effect of shade as far as this issue is concerned. Then regarding roofs, Madam Chair, we have been using the terracotta roofing or the ceramic tiles, we call it. But these days, we are changing to the color-coated alu-zinc roofing sheet. Now, my question is, why do we still have to use the red roof and not white roof or a light-colored roof? Here in Legon, I can understand, because we want to maintain the aesthetics. And we also have the resources, so we can buy air conditioning in our homes. But if you go to the communities, they can't afford air conditioning, but they are also imitating us, and they are using the red roof. So why should we use the red roof when we know that a white roof or a lighter color roof reflects more sunlight because of the high albedo, and it can have up to 10 to 30% cooling effect than the red roof? I have one of my childhood friends, he's sitting right here, Stanley Akolo Tamaklu. We used to call him Dajero. You know, I've had these discussions with him a lot. Why we still use red roofs in this country? Because he deals in roofs, and he can give you very good roofs. So check him out. But Madam, my question is, should we by all means use red roofs? I leave Ghanaians to answer this question. So what we are doing in our project is what we call refit. So we have designed these prototypes at the UDS campus. And as you see, this is the average room size in the Tamale area. So we are monitoring, and our ultimate aim is to come up with low-cost local materials that one can use so that the effect of heat in their rooms will be minimized. Now let's look at floods. Flooding has become so widespread and complex in urban areas that Ghanaian authorities and stakeholders are overwhelmed by the situation. Let us face it, they are overwhelmed because the causes are many and complex. This could be due to the combination of the following factors, especially here in Accra: low coastal elevation, inadequate and undersized drains and culverts, dumping of refuse into drains and water bodies, construction in environmentally sensitive areas such as flood plains. Now, these days it has improved a lot, but when we're doing this study, there was no systematic forecasting system to warn urban residents of impending floods, nor a well-integrated risk management approach to address the safety, awareness, evacuation, and psychological needs of potential victims. So myself, my friend Felix Asante, our colleague from Laube from Germany, and one of our students, Emmanuel Abeka, we undertook a study captioned "Contested Causes of Flooding in Poor Urban Areas in Accra, Ghana, an actor-oriented perspective." We did this in Glefe, in Poase, and Agboglushi in Accra. So we interviewed officials from organizations involved in flood mitigation in the Accra metropolitan area. And Madam Chair, you'll be surprised by the number of institutions that are involved in flood management in Accra. Look at the list. There's NADMO, there's Metropolitan Health Management Team, Ghana Meteo, Metro Physical, Metro West, Accra Metro, Hydros. I can go on and on. The issue is, so why do we still have this problem when there are all these people involved in flood mitigation in Accra? We also spoke to people from the Pambros Salt Limited, because as I told you, the study was around the Glefe area, and community leaders as well as households. The study revealed that there is mistrust and externalization of blame among the actors. For example, the technocrats indicated, among other reasons, that the problem is due to poor public attitude towards waste management, open dumping into drains and water bodies. So they were pointing accusing fingers on the communities. So we went to the communities, and the community leaders also indicated that it is the salt extraction activities of Pambros and the diversion of the estuary of the Jatako Lagoon and creation of an embankment that is the cause. So then we went to the Pambros people. Then they also said they refuted the allegation and put the blame on the community leaders and metropolitan authorities. So, Madam Chair, there is a blame game. When you go to this one says it's this person. When you go to this person says it's this person. So who is causing the problem? We recommended partial integration of formal institutions into formal metropolitan structures. That is co-opting the leadership of these institutions, whether they are traditional authority, development and landlords associations, and other local coalitions, into the flood zoning and risk management committees as official members would be very helpful. The advantage is that both formal and informal actors in flood adaptation expand their knowledge on how flood risk unfolds at the local level. Hence, more appropriate and mutually acceptable abatement measures can be fashioned out for the city. Now, let me turn my attention briefly to talk about the two diseases that I spoke about. At the time, most of the studies on climate change and the two diseases I will now speak about, namely schistosomiasis and CSM, have mainly been on development of mathematical models to understand the nature of climate change on the transmission of these diseases. In fact, no attempt has been made to understand the nature of the relationship from the point of view of community members through public perception studies. Yet we know that it is community members that will bear the brunt of the impacts of climate change. Furthermore, comprehending public perception about a phenomenon is imperative for the design of effective communication and mitigation strategies. This is because, and I want you to keep this punchline, mathematical models predict, but perceptions decide what people do. I repeat, mathematical models predict, but perceptions decide what people do. Let's look at climate change and schistosomiasis. It is a waterborne parasitic disease with the most common symptom being blood in the urine or in your stool. It is also known as bilharzias or snail fever, and most commonly affects school-aged children. It is one of the main occupational diseases acquired through activities associated with fresh water, such as washing, fishing, and swimming. Disease is transmitted to humans when the Cercaria penetrates the skin when contact with infested water is made. There are two types common in Ghana. There's the urinal one and the intestinal. In fact, this disease became a public health issue in Ghana after the construction of the Akosombo Dam in the 1960s, which created extensive areas suitable for the breeding of the schistome host snail. Although Ghana has made some efforts to control the disease, for example, we had the National Bilharzia Control Program, we've done aquatic weed clearing, dredging of the river and removal of sandbars, milling the Volta River, and we also use mass chemotherapy in primary schools, basically using prassicantels, and we've also done quite a number of health education. But despite all these efforts, prevalence of schistosomiasis has remained high in some areas over the years. So we undertook this study in Obuom and Codjoe Ashon, and these are both farming communities in the Ga district, right close by here, because the district has one of the highest schistosomiasis prevalence in Ghana. In fact, it is drained by three major rivers. That is the Densu, the Insaki, and the Pompon River. And the abundance of water bodies makes swimming the major recreational activity for children and young adults. In addition, a number of activities, including washing, bathing, and fishing, are undertaken in the rivers and ponds. Their source is also rich in sandstone and limestone, which is a good source of material for the construction industry. therefore making sand mining a predominant activity in the area. So the activities of sand miners leave these crevices and pits, which are filled with water after rains, and do serve as habitats for snails and other disease vectors. I show you this image that was taken by my student Ruben Labi in 2015. If you look here, you will see in November 2012, there was the high water level. And this is the dangerous part, because you do not see the snails in there, but they may be in there. Then by January 2013, there's a moderate water level. By March 2013, there's a very low water level. So now you see the snails appearing. And then by April 2013, they are almost dried, so you can see the snail. In Ghana, we call it la chamon, which means blood urine. And contrary to studies elsewhere, that community members perceive blood in urine as a sign of maturity or malehood, in our study area, they identified blood urine as a symptom of bilharzia, which is a good thing. Because in some other communities, when male boys, when they urinate blood, it is seen as a sign of maturity, that they have come of age when you urinate blood. So if you want to come of age, then you have to urinate blood in those communities. But thankfully, we did not find those kinds of evidence in our study areas. The community members were unanimous in their opinion that there have been changes in the climate. And they said that extreme warm temperature stimulates the urge to swim in the river. So somebody said during the month of Ochoklikli, which is March, in Ghana, we call the month of March Ochoklikli. When we say something, no control, then it's burning. And it's not just that HOA, but Chojenche. That's what it means, Madam Chair. When we were looking at the representations of diseases in this country, we realized that every disease, the name given to it, whether it's in Ghana or Akan, it goes to the second or to the third power. And I don't understand. So, for example, if somebody has a boil, why wouldn't the Akan say he or she has po, but they say pompo? Why? Even in Ghana, if somebody is suffering from epilepsy, why don't we say he has bli, but we say bli? And even sickle cell disease, Ghana even raise it to the third power, because we say chwe. Why? You can go on and on like kakabure, but everything is, I don't know why. But maybe, you see, like kaka. Okay? But maybe for kaka, I think I do understand why it is kaka. Because if you have suffered toothache before, you will know that the actual tooth that is giving you the problem is here. But the pain is here. I don't understand. So maybe that's why we say it's kaka. But Madam Chair, I invite you to give me answers to these questions. Because you are a linguist and you are into languages. So I'm sure you can be able to tell me something. Now, I'll finish very soon. So no, don't worry. So this gentleman in Codjoe Ashon told us that during the month of Ochoklikli, the weather is very hot. So when you come from the farm and you are sweating so much, then you have to go and cool yourself in the Densu River. And it is when you swim in the river at the wrong time that you get the disease. So we calculated what we call the relative index of exposure. I don't want you to see it as so technical, but you can see for males and for females and for children, okay, and the various activities that expose them the more to the disease. Look out for males. So for males, it was swimming, okay, and the index was 189. But for children, also it's swimming, but look at the index, 1,080. And for women, it is washing clothes, which is 36, because they do that in the rivers. So they had some treatment-seeking practices. At the hospital, they use a single dose of praziquantel, depending on the weight of the patient. And a few women indicated knowledge of herbs that could treat schistosomiasis. So we recommended at the time that there should be improved access to quality and reliable water. Then our study also showed that most of the interventions, especially the screening and treatment, had been targeted at children in basic schools. Yet all the community members are at risk. So interventions should be expanded to cover all the other populations at risk. Now let's look at CSM briefly. It is a respiratory and contagious disease. The bacterial meningitis is an infection or inflammation of the protective membrane covering the brain. And it is transmitted from person to person through droplets of respiratory or throat secretions. The conditions that favor the transmission are densely populated rooms with inadequate ventilation, overcrowding at public events, including worship centers and markets, as well as population movements during pilgrimages. The climatic conditions are dry winds, dust storms, low humidity, and cold nights, because they considerably diminishes the local immunity of the pharynx, thereby increasing the risk. And the symptoms are stiff neck, high fever, convulsion, headaches, and vomiting. In fact, the first report of a meningitis epidemic in Africa occurred in 1840. And so I show you the African meningitis belt, which was produced in the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So as you can see, it stretches all the way from Senegal. I think I have blown. Stretches all the way from Senegal to Ethiopia. But if you look closely, you will see it cuts across the northern portions of Ghana. Studies of CSM dates back to the 1900s when it was first discovered. And the first recorded outbreak of CSM was in Cape Coast in 1900 among East African laborers who were brought to the Gold Coast to support the British campaign against the Ashantis. So when I read this, I said, Ochiala. They were brought to support the British against the Ashantis. And they recorded CSM. I'm sure it's the power of the Lord, isn't it? My senior pastors are here. So I'm trying to be of good behavior. So estimates show that the disease was responsible for the deaths of 20,000 people between 1906 and 1908. And since that period, epidemics were recorded every 8 to 12 years. And records have shown that deaths for a single year has ranged from 8 cases near Bole in 1944 to 18,703 cases in the entire country. But now, CSM have been recorded in all the regions. So in our study, we also came up with the Ghanaian meningitis belt. So as you can see, the very endemic areas are the northern region, and these are the old regions. And then the yellowish ones are the low. But look that even in the eastern region, there are high incidence as compared to, for example, the upper west region at the time. So our study, as I said, was in the Kanasanan and Kana districts. And the participants stated that the heat experience in recent times is much more severe than in the past, since temperatures could now rise 48 degrees. They were unanimous that recent changes in temperature, which subsequently result in severe heat, dusty and drought conditions, as well as recent decreases in rainfall, combined with considerable high room occupancy rates, poor ventilation, and dehydration, is responsible for increases in CSM epidemics. So communities adapt by doing what in climate change. In climate change, we have a number of adaptations. So they use, for example, what we call reactive adaptation. And this is the annual mass CSM immunization we do by the Ghana Health Service, which is targeted at endemic areas during outbreaks. It was noted that when immunizations are done early, the incident rate is drastically reduced, and early vaccination reduces by up to 80% the incidence rate. Then they also do, there's a segment of the population which is also against these vaccinations. And hence, they do not make themselves and families available for immunization. They are of the opinion that the disease is caused by the gods and ancestors. So since they do not offend the gods and the ancestors, they will not contract the disease. Another adaptation strategy, reactive one, is the moderation of social-cultural activities and mass gathering when an outbreak is detected. So, for example, festivals, marriage ceremonies, birth naming ceremonies, and funerals are restricted. And there is also movement restrictions. They also do what we call autonomous adaptation. And I show you images of that. You see a former building to the left. You see how tiny the window is. And now the recent buildings have more wider windows. But the question is, how many people can be able to afford this? Other autonomous adaptation strategies they use is the use of fuel-efficient and improved cooking methods that use a small amount of charcoal, and sometimes they sleep in the open air. And then they also do what we call plant adaptation, which is mainly through afforestation, growing thick, and preservation of sacred growths, which is one of the indigenous methods we spoke about. Finally, I will now look at climate change and healthcare provision, and Madam Chair, I will be done. This is because global surface temperatures are expected to rise during the 21st century and to be felt most in Africa, including the largest change in days when extreme temperatures are likely to impact population health. Africa is also likely to experience higher risks of flooding. And these extreme weather events disproportionately affect the urban poor and their settlements. Hospitals and tropical climates must cope with extreme heat, and recirculating air conditioning is increasingly being installed and used to provide thermal comfort. Yet there is limited evidence from Africa on the extreme weather and health nexus. So I now present this one. We use 6 case study hospitals: the Princess Marie Louise Children's Hospital in Accra, the Tamale General Hospital, as well as 4 other private hospitals. These are some of the mechanical ventilations we have in our hospitals. And these are some of the natural ventilations we have in our hospitals. And all these have implications. Now, so we recorded the temperatures in the maternity ward, in the children's ward, the OPD, labor ward, laboratory, and then we compared it to the meteorological site. As you can see from all the wards, temperatures were above 30 degrees, which is an indication that when you send people, if somebody has malaria, their body temperature is already on heat. And now you send them to the hospital, and the hospital is also on heat. So how do they get their healing? Now this one is an interesting one because we tracked for the maternity ward and the children's hospital compared with the airport. We tracked for a period of 1 day. So as you can see, from 12 midnight all the way to 11 in the evening. And at 12, you could see the maternity ward and the children's ward were around 32 degrees. And temperatures would decline to around 7 a.m. and now start rising until it peaks around 5 p.m. and then starts to decline. So around 5 p.m., it goes as high as 36 degrees or more. Now, the interesting thing with this, which I don't have an explanation for, is why there's this significant difference between the early hours of the maternity and children's ward and the airport. But when it gets to the peak of the day, the airport reading is even slightly higher than those two. I believe my colleagues in Labro who may be watching may have answers to this. Then we follow the health workers because these are the people, the nurses and the doctors. We followed them to their rooms and we also took temperatures because we wanted to see the kinds of temperatures they are also experiencing. Because if you don't sleep well and you go to see your doctor, the doctor has not slept well. Maybe doctor is even better. If you go and see a dentist and the dentist has not slept well, Can be problem. Can be problem. Oh. So this is what is happening in some of our hospitals. So if you look at all the areas, whether in Gumani or Lameshegu or Kuku or Ward K, these health workers are sleeping under extreme heat conditions. Now, how do they impact the health facilities? There's a greater thermal inertia of buildings and influence of the urban heat island. That's what I spoke about. So there are more respiratory problems. There's dehydration, there's hypertension, strokes, cerebral meningitis, asthma, boils, and heat rashes. And because of the poor ventilation, it also exacerbates the heat. So somebody has said that when your room is about 34 degrees and higher, when you put on the fan is not effective. So you might as well put off the fan. It limits the ability of health workers to discharge their duties. But in one of the clinics in Accra, because you know Ghana water, Ghana electricity, and extreme rainfall and extreme heat, immediately there's little sign of rain, the power will go off. So in some of the hospitals, they told us they had to set up intravenous fluids and sometimes do minor surgeries with mobile phone lights. Pharmacy also loses refrigeration, their drugs are damaged, and the vaccination cold chain storage is also affected. Let's see these two quotes. This one, the first one was by a surgeon in Tamale. He said, as for the extreme heat, normally everybody sweats during that time. And then if you come to my unit where we normally attend to open wounds, you see that when you are sweating, that is not the best time. The time you are sweating profusely to open somebody's wound, you are exposing it to infections. So it affects us. Then there was this nurse in charge in Tamale, and this is what she said. She said, when the cases come, like Ghana, the way we speak, our cases in the bar, when the cases come, cases in the church, cases in the bar. It's really a big challenge, okay? Madam Chair, I want you to listen to this very, very carefully. The spaces are not enough for us to put mattresses on the floor. At times, we are forced to refer them, but some of them refuse to go. So we do mixed admission. Listen carefully. Malaria cases are admitted at the surgical ward because we have an available bed there. And then children are admitted at the adult ward. Okay. Now, and this is the interesting part. If we see that things are very serious, that the whole emergency ward is also full, then females are sent to the male ward. Madam Chair, this is dangerous. Because, it is not all male when they are sick. They may not be all that sick. And if you do something like this, I know there are some males in some of the communities, they can go and lie in waiting. Because she said, we feel to save a life is better. At Ghana Health Service, they cannot do that. Under no circumstance. They cannot send females to male ward. Please, whoever is hearing me, please. So how do they build resilience? And I'll be done in the next 3 minutes. They install large windows and doors with nets to increase ventilation, potential for solar-powered AC, but how many of these hospitals can afford? They hope for early warning for extreme heat or related power or water outages. On the flats, there are more cases of malaria, as we all know. More patients result in not enough beds, so the no-bed syndrome. Sometimes the flood water can be up to waist high, and they have to move equipment to higher levels, damage generator, and there's loss of medicine. Even during the last flooding, the Legon Hospital, I saw images. I don't know if it was AI generated, because these days, AI can generate a lot of things. But I saw that the Legon Hospital flooded. I don't know if it is true. Then another interesting thing is communities can also be isolated from services. So there's a problem for those who are on regular medications, like mental health people, diabetes, and hypertension. And there can be lack of safe and dry places to sleep, and which can result in lack of sleep and increased stress. And this is something we have not looked at it. We have not looked at so much as a country. Because if you look, we need the emergency responses to floods that we have are largely focused on physical health. And it is about time that we start thinking about the mental health. Their resilience, they also mobilize community members to clear rubbish, they build raised areas, and they also hope for early warning systems. And Chair, I will now show you some images of some of the climate change interventions we have done in the communities. We have launched climate change clubs, as you can see in Asha Town, the Agbogboshi area. In fact, I'm very proud of this because we constructed a 144-meter drain in the Agbogboshi area, which is the perennial flood problems they have. Oh, please. Well, you don't want to give it up. Yeah. Because I'm supposed to be a researcher. Me, I'm not a member of parliament. Honorable Nilante is here, so I can see him. Me, I'm not a member of parliament. I'm also not in government. So if I'll be able to construct 144-meter drain in Agbogboshi, you are not clapping for me. Maybe I should go into government and I can do more. We also provided waste disposal facilities in Jamestown. In fact, we were the first project to introduce inorganic waste separation and organic waste separation in Accra, as you can see from the rubbish dumps. These are some more images of some of the things. And then those of you who are here, we constructed a fish smoking facility in Shogono, and then near Sempe area. And Chair, our recommendations were that we should explore design changes to reduce the impact of floods events in health systems, build risk path, contingency planning, and more importantly, early warning system. In conclusion, I believe that I have demonstrated that climate change is not merely an environmental issue, but also a health challenge with social, cultural, and economic dimensions. That indigenous knowledge offers valuable insights into climate observation, adaptation, and resilience, with community perceptions while community perceptions shape responses to climate-related risk. And therefore, integrating scientific knowledge, local understanding provides a comprehensive approach, strengthening health systems, improving adaptation strategies, and building resilient communities in Ghana and across Africa. Madam, I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please resume your seats. And Chair, before I do my acknowledgements, I want to announce 2 legacy projects. I believe you are going to be very happy about it. Because the other night, I heard you say something to Auntie Jemima Anderson. I heard you say it. So I want to surprise you. And I'm sure you know what you said. When Professor Trefort made his announcement, and you said that I will be coming next week. But because I'm from population studies, you'll be expecting something. I'm sure you know. But I want to announce that this setup we have here, that's the first legacy project I want to leave for the university. Because as I've always discussed with you, the screens we used to have were too small. When people come to inaugural lectures like this, they should have a very good experience. And since research dissemination, I see this as research dissemination, which is also probably part of my portfolio in my new role. I want to start up 80,000 cedis investment. 80,000 Ghana cedis, which is going to be like a seed funding. So we can always bring these giant screens and also improve the sound. I'm sure those of you who are here, my colleagues, you see that the sound probably is much better today. So this legacy project is to take care of that. So those of you who are next in line to have your inaugural lecture, you are going to have all these facilities at your disposal. And the second thing I also want to speak about is about the pen ceremony. The pen ceremony is when colleagues attain the rank of associate professors, we do celebrate them. Here in this university, you have to rise to the rank of a full professor before you can come and stand here like I am. But we all know that not all our colleagues will end up becoming full professors. So those who leave as associate professors, we also need to celebrate them. So, and we have demonstrated that in the College of Education. Today, I tried to check the numbers. So I went back as far as February and looked at the registrar's communications on appointments. And I counted the number of associate professors from February to the last one, I think, was in July. In all, there were 48 associate professors, which is a marked improvement. Please clap for yourself. And so, I'm thinking 48, to do a ceremony for 48 people, and the pen ceremony is quite elaborate. Maybe there'll be too many awardees. So my plan is that we will maintain it at the college level. But the Office of the Pro Vice-Chancellor will work with colleges to organize pen ceremonies for associate professors. And I'm sure you are happy now. So ladies and gentlemen, let me now do my acknowledgement. And I'll be out of here. So I first start with my mentors. My mentors, first of all, the late Professor George Bene, who I had the opportunity of working with as a national service person. Just around the time he transitioned to become the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, and now Professor John Snabila, also late, took over. So these are my two main mentors. Then Professor Emmanuel Tawia, Professor Andrew Ayi, who is also passed, and Emerita Professor Elizabeth Adefio Shandoff, who is right here with us. Please give her a round of applause. Madame is in her 80s. Madame is in her 80s, but if you see her, she's like in her 30s or 40s. Please give it up to her. And she was like a mother to me. I mean, right from my geography days. In fact, she supervised my undergraduate. My long essay, call it. She was the one who supervised it. Yeah. I also acknowledge my PhD supervisors, Professor Ikat Illes from Germany, who is now retired and living in his home city of Hamburg. Every now and then I do communicate with him. Professor Paul Fleck, also now I think living in the US. And Madam, let me express my appreciation to you as the Vice-Chancellor and also senior management. I know it is you who gave me the opportunity to serve as a provost and now also the Pro VC. And so I don't take it lightly at all. I am very humble. And I also acknowledge family Uncle Frank. I know he's not here with me, but you, who we used to meet a lot in London, now I hear he has relocated. So I'm sure I'll see. I don't know if Ifwa is here, but I'm really grateful for the friendship that we have. At RIPS, Professor Abu Mumuni, who is now the director, I acknowledge him. Professor Francis Dodu, who was also at RIPS and was director at the time, Professor Stephen Owusu Kwanchi, and all faculty staff and students. Please give them a round of applause. I've also had a pleasure when I was at the college working with the advisory board members, Nana Jumo Bene, and it was as if fate would have it. I worked with his father, and then I also worked with him. We had a very good time, and we were able to achieve a lot. I also acknowledge the college registrar, Mr. Nkansa, and all deans and HODs, as well as my international collaborators. I know some of them will be watching online, especially from Lavro, Kate Golf, Ben Roberts, and then from Exeter, Neil Aja. The Ghana Baptist Convention, Reverend Thompson said he would not be able to be here, but I know the other clergy are here. I acknowledge your presence. And then my own local pastor, Reverend Dan Yerenchi Labi, and members of the Living Stream Baptist Church. For my mentees, research fellows, I just want to single out Professor Benjamin Delali Dovi, whom I've had a lot of intellectual discussions with. And if in my academic life, if I have challenges, he's the one I go to. He's a very experienced and very knowledgeable person. And then Professor Philip Nchiaje from KNUSC. As far as my organizing committee members are concerned, I've listed them here. But let me say a big thank you to Mr. Michael Leslie Bartlett Vanderpoy Vampi. You have really been like a brother. And then Professor Monica Mensah and the rest of you. I really acknowledge all your efforts. For the sponsors, they are numerous. So I present to you the list. You can also find them in my brochure. I really acknowledge all of you. Then my friend, William Thomas Quay is here. Now he has a beard. I don't know. He looks like a Greek mythologist, if you see him. Yeah, let me finally extend my appreciation to my family. I don't know if my mother is here. He was scheduled to be here. He has been, he's here, she's here. Okay. Okay. My mother is here. Yeah. I lost my dad, so my mother has been like a rock behind us. And for all the years I lived with my father and mother, it was only on one occasion I saw them having an argument. For many, many years, it's only one occasion. And even on that occasion, when they saw me, they cooled down and they retreated into their homes. Now my sisters are also here, but let me acknowledge my sister Patience. You know, she's really been by my side. You know, she used to cook. She used to cook from Adabraka and bring it to us, me and my friends, Nana Akwesi Amankwa and Kalabalo. You know, my sister will cook and carry it and bring it to us here on Legon campus. And we were so annoying that when we even finished eating the food, we will not wash the plates. And she will come and carry them. And then we used to give excuse that, oh, there's no water here at Legon. Yeah, I really appreciate you. My other half sisters are also here. I appreciate them. The Ungettable family, you are here. I appreciate all of you. Now the extended, the nuclear family, the kids are all here. The madam is also here. Let me just tell you a brief story about my wife, and then I will conclude. I said a lot during my exhibition, so I don't want to repeat that. But when a lot of people, when they see my wife, they think, oh, this woman is very calm and very, you know. But many, many years ago, we live in the Ashoma Estates. We used to have a lot of armed robbery. And the situation was that bad that when you are going to sleep, you know at 1 a.m. the armed robbers will come. And through 1 a.m. they will come. And when they come, they will not only attack one house. They will move from house to house, from house to house. And you can hear people shouting for help. And those times there was no police presence. The entire estate was bushy and all that. It was that bad to the extent that there were some of my colleagues who rented hotels in town. So they would come during the day with their children. They go through the normal process, take their children to the school, and in the afternoon, when they come and pick their children, they will go and sleep in the hotel in town. And the following morning, they will come back and continue the routine because of the armed robbers. I could not afford to do that. So I let Madame and the children go and stay with their mother, and I was home alone. And in the night, I'll be hanging on my window like a monkey and just looking out for the armed robbers. But one day, my wife came and told me that going to the police headquarters, that this armed robbery must stop. I said, you are going where? That I'm going to the police headquarters. Hey, but do you know some? I said, I'm going to the police headquarters. This armed robbery must stop. So I said, okay. So I came to work. Those days there was no, texting and a lot of phone. So I was there. Then she later rang and said, I've gone to the police headquarters. This evening you will see action. Hey, woman, action. Okay, so well, okay. And I'm chair, true to her words. That evening, the policemen that came into the estate, and when they came to our house and greeted her, Madam, we have reported to duty. Apparently, she just drove to the police headquarters, knowing nobody. I don't know what she told the policemen at the gate. They took her all the way, not to the IGP, but the one who was responsible for operations at the time. I don't want to mention his name. He later became a friend and convinced them that they should come to the estate. For 2 weeks, there was full police presence in the estate. And that was the end of the armed robbery situation. Madam Chair, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Codjoe, for enlightening us on such a topical issue. And thank you also for the legacy projects and making the Vice-Chancellor very happy. I think he deserves another round of applause. After such a thought-provoking lecture, I need you to relax and enjoy a musical interlude to be performed by the Ghana Dance Ensemble. Shall we welcome them? Thank you very much, Ghana Dance and Sound. It is now time to make presentations to our distinguished lecturer. I do have a very tall list. To go through it, we are going to be here the rest of the night. So I crave your indulgence to do a few. And if you don't get called up here, you have another opportunity after the recess to meet with the lecturer when he comes back into the room to take a few pictures, make your presentations. I hope I'm forgiven. Thank you very much. We'll begin with Research and Development Directorate. Whilst they are coming, please, College of Humanities should be ready. Can we have College of Humanities come up, please? College of Education, please get ready. College of Education, it's your turn now, whilst RIPS prepares. College of Education. Shall we have reps from RIPS, please? As they come, Department of Geography and Resource Development, please be ready. The Department of Geography, as they come, ISE, please get ready. So, College of Education is ready now, so we'll have college, after which Department of Geography will come. All right, thank you very much. Department of Geography, as they come, ISE, please get ready. Department of Geography and Resource Development. All right, shall we have ISE come up, please? After ISE, Legon Hall. Can we have Legon Hall come up? Legon Hall. Suhum's Sektek Old Boys, please get ready. Legon Hall. Otherwise, Suhum Sektek Old Boys, please come up. As they come, UG Press, get ready. All right, so this is Legon Hall. All right, okay. So Suhum Sektek, please get ready. Thank you. Thank you very much, Legon Hall, Suhum Sektek Old Boys. As they come, UG Press, get ready. Thank you very much. UG Press. UG Press. Information Technology Directorate. Please get ready. Thank you very much, UG Press. ITD. The ITD Distance Education, ITD. Distance Education, please come up. Your turn. As they come, Adult Education and Human Resource Studies, please get ready. Distance Education. If they are not here, Adult Education and Human Resource Studies. The planning committee for the inaugural lecture should get ready, please. Now we have the planning committee come up. As they come, Pro Ghana Limited. Oh, they've done a good job. Please applaud them. Pro Ghana. Yes. As they come, The extended family should get ready. Can I call on the extended family of Professor Codjoe to come up, whilst the immediate family prepares. Can make it there. We endorse the mother of Prof, please. Thank you very much, extended family. We shall now have our final presentation by the wife and children. Thank you very much. And thank you all for your thoughtful presentations to our distinguished professor. As I said earlier, if you didn't have the opportunity to come up, you have yet another opportunity after the session to make your presentations to Prof. Thank you once again. You have done very well. Please put your hands together again for yourself. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now my privilege to invite back here our chairperson, Professor Nanaba Apia-Amfo, Vice-Chancellor, to deliver her closing remarks. Shall we welcome her, please?
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. Distinguished colleagues, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, I did indicate that I was anticipating an insightful lecture. And indeed, we've had an insightful lecture, a thought-provoking one, a humorous one, and I believe that we've all learned a lot this evening. Shall we give a lecturer another round of applause? So, Professor Codjoe, on behalf of the University of Ghana, I thank you for this lecture. You took us to the skies, brought us to land, the communities, to the hospitals, and from indigenous knowledge to modern science. You know, before this lecture, he told me that he was going to charge, and indeed, he did charge. So as we bring our program to a close, I'd like to share with you some lessons that I picked from this very interesting lecture. The first lesson for me was that knowledge does not reside in laboratories and universities alone. It is not a prerogative of PhD holders alone. And it was interesting for me, the idea of communities turning clouds into calendars, reading cloud formations, moon phases, even the sound of frogs and the movement of birds and ants, the conditions at sea to anticipate the weather and the seasons. As I sat there, I was reflecting on some of the practices that many of us knew growing up. Farmers practiced intercropping long before we spoke of climate-smart agriculture. In many fishing communities, they observe days where nobody goes to sea, allowing the resources some respite, both the human resources and the resources that we have at sea. And then there were those instructions that we got from our mothers and our grandmothers. Don't sweep at night. Don't do this on this particular day. Don't do this at a certain time. And often the explanation was, this is how it is done. And if you are a well-brought-up Ghanaian child, that ended the discussion. Don't ask any further questions. And sometimes we considered these as superstitious. But for me, from today's lecture, it challenges us to rather ask what knowledge, experience, and practical wisdom may lie behind each of these practices. It was also instructive, really, the value of community knowledge. I was particularly impressed by Chief Ransford's notebook. Its record compared to that of the meteorological record, and how a perfect match this was. Prof, what I was wondering though was that, would he not have qualified as a co-author for your publications? Certainly, not every traditional belief will withstand scientific scrutiny. And I'm not suggesting that we romanticize indigenous knowledge, but neither should we dismiss them simply because it was not produced in a laboratory or published in a peer-reviewed article. I believe that our task as scholars is to interrogate these knowledge systems, document them, test them, and where appropriate, bring it into productive conversation with scientific knowledge. The second lesson for me is that climate change is also a health issue. And what our instruments tell us may not always be the full story. I was struck by the finding that indoor temperatures measured in the homes, in workplaces, in public institutions, both in Accra and Tamale, could be considerably higher than temperatures recorded at meteorological stations. Now, this matters because climate change is experienced by people where they actually live and work. It affects, like you mentioned, sleep, productivity, livelihoods, and health. And indeed, we don't even want to envisage the dentist who didn't have a good sleep and has to work on your tooth. We heard about the implications this has on the storage of medicines, of vaccines, to patient comfort, water, and power supply, and access to healthcare generally. But Prof, I noticed that you were very much appalled of all the improvisations that went on in the hospitals that you were your study areas. You were most appalled by the mixed admissions. But I would like to tell you that this is not totally new. You did mention my husband Frank. He's not here. He went to KNUST back in the day, and there was a looter, and he was part of it, and then the police came after them. So he said he quickly, ran. At that time, he was close to the KNUST hospital. Ran to the hospital, ran into a ward, and just lay on the bed. Only for after a few minutes, a nurse to come and trip him that, what are you doing here in a female ward? So mixed admissions is a long-time phenomenon. But certainly our prof this evening drew our attention to the challenges that we have within our health systems, which we should all collaborate to solve. Now, my only disappointment, Prof, about the temperatures was that you did not include the gender dimension, even though you had collected data in your own home. And so I think you recommended that the temperatures that we get from meteorological service, we should add 10 to that. For women like Gertrude and myself within a certain age, you should add +8 on top of the 10. But Gertrude and I will forgive you. You don't even know the name of the devices that give us respite from those excessive heat. We will forgive you, but you should go and sin no more. The third lesson is that effective adaptation must be built within communities and not merely designed externally for them. And the discussion of flooding was particularly instructive. Communities were blaming government agencies, point to human behavior. The blame game just goes on. And meanwhile, the water levels keep rising. And I think that it's a serious point. And there's a need for collaboration and shared responsibility. And whether we are responding to flooding, to health challenges, people's lived experiences and local knowledge must be part of the response alongside the scientific and biomedical evidence. Now, my fourth and final lesson comes from our lecturer himself. It's about impactful scholarship, and the lesson that impactful scholarship must ultimately leave the university and touch lives. Now, Professor Codjoe's research has not ended with publications. His research has gone beyond that. It has contributed to policy work on climate change, malaria, supported improved fish smoking facilities, and waste management infrastructure. It established and supported drainage interventions aimed at reducing flooding and improving public health. So he is not only researching, but he is making a contribution to the solutions that we ought to have. He said, yes, say that he is not an MP, but maybe we can confer on you an assemblyman. And another thing that I also learned from him. I don't know whether you noticed how many times he said, "I don't understand." He recognizes that even though he is a full professor, he doesn't know it all. And so he calls for collaboration, intra-disciplinary and interdisciplinary collaboration. And Prof. Codjoe, maybe this is where I'll address the issue you raised about the names of diseases in our local languages. And you said it's usually raised to the second or the third power. Well, in linguistics, this is what we call reduplication. And reduplication, very simply put, is where you have part of the word or the full word repeated. And it could be repeated twice, it could be repeated 3 times, 4 times, and so on. And it performs a number of semantic and even sometimes pragmatic roles. It could be multiplicity, plurality, iteration or repetition, or intensity. And so, well, if you have kaka, definitely you can think about the intensity of the pain that you have. And so it will not be enough simply to say that you have ka, or simply to say that you have pom. So it is a linguistic phenomenon that actually reflects what we are experiencing and what we are thinking about when it comes to diseases. Prof, I would like to say that as you assume responsibility for research, innovation, and development, I cannot think of a more appropriate moment for this inaugural lecture. The philosophy reflected in your own scholarly career, which has been rigorous research, interdisciplinarity, community engagement, translation into policy, and tangible societal impact, it's precisely what we expect you to help strengthen across the university. Thank you also for the legacy projects, the screens, the pen ceremonies, which you did establish in the College of Education, which you are now extending across the university. And also for your commitment of 80,000. But I didn't hear, was it CDs or dollars? All right. Now, on a lighter note, I have always known Professor Codjoe as an Arsenal supporter, especially because I'm the president of the Arsenal Supporters' Wives Association. But I didn't know about the Oli part, the Oli Dade, Oli Rosalinda part of him. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's lecture exemplifies our second strategic priority, impactful research, as well as our fourth strategic priority, engagement and partnership, and even our fifth strategic priority, which is sustainable resource mobilization and stewardship. And we have seen this demonstrated in our inaugural lecture. And as I mentioned earlier, that is particularly significant even as he has assumed the role of Pro Vice-Chancellor for research, innovation, and development. For me, the overarching lesson that I take from tonight's lecture, Reading the Skies and Healing the Land, is that we do not have to choose between indigenous knowledge and modern science. Our task is to understand what each can contribute and how together they can help us build a healthier and more resilient society. Prof. Codjoe, thank you very much. We celebrate your scholarship, your mentorship, your leadership, and your service. And I would like to congratulate you once again on a brilliant delivery tonight. I would also like to thank you for joining us this evening. We're always glad when you come to join us for programs such as these. Thank you all very much. We have some more programs coming up. We hope to see you here again and again. Thank you, and do enjoy a lovely evening.
Thank you very much, Vice-Chancellor. Madam Chair, please permit me to acknowledge a few of the dignitaries who were able to join us this evening for this lecture. We're joined by 3 of our former Vice-Chancellors and a Pro Vice-Chancellor. We have been our Miss Emeritus Professor Ivan Adai. We also have Emeritus Professor CNB Tego, Emeritus Professor Ernest Aite. We also have Professor John Japon in our midst. We have Professor Dateban, Vice-Chancellor of the Central University, here with us. We're also joined by Emerita Professor Isabella Kwachi, Emerita Professor Elizabeth Adefio Shandov. We have the President of Ghana Baptist Convention here. Then we have Reverend Daniel Rechi Labi and members of the Living Stream Baptist Church. We have Nana Kwejo Jumo Bene in our midst. Professor H.N.E. Wellington, also here. You're welcome, Prof. Then Honorable Nii Ardey Vanderpoy, former MP Ododiodio. We also have Honorable Suleimana, former MP Sisala East in our midst. Dr. Benjamin Joboku, Managing Director, Republic Bank. Thank you for coming. Our former Director of Finance, Mrs. Bernice Agudu, is also here in our midst. Then also we have Nii Ardey Codjoe the First, Sempe Akweman Manche, representing His Royal Majesty Nii Ardey Codjoe II, Ghana Manche and President of the Ghana Traditional Council. You are all most welcome. Please, if you are not mentioned, it's not deliberate. Thank you very much. May I now crave your indulgence for a few announcements. Please, if you turn with me to the inside back cover of the brochure for a list of upcoming events in the university, find that the university will host an inaugural Ghana Higher Education Summit on Wednesday, October 26th at the CD Conference Center on the theme Universities at Crossroads, Charting a Sustainable Funding Pathway for Inclusive Higher Education. You are all warmly welcome to the summit. We also invite you to the 9th and final inaugural lecture for the 2025-2026 academic year to be delivered by Professor Codjoe Apiagyei Echia on the topic, The Student Question, Reclaiming Academic Freedom from Democratic Renewal in Africa. This will be on Thursday, August 27th, 2026, here in the Great Hall. And we invite all of you to join us on the 27th. On 9th September, our inaugural lecturer, Professor Nii Ardey Codjoe, will be interviewed on the Research and Innovation Agenda Program on Radio Universe 10.7 FM. During the program, he will throw more light on his inaugural lecture. You can ask all your questions. So please tune in and listen to him. Again, Professor Vincent Boyma will be on Joy News tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. We are all invited to also tune in to listen. This will be the order of refreshment. After recession, we invite all our guests to join us at the north wing of the Great Hall for refreshment. All students will take their refreshment in the quadrangle provided by Promasidor Ghana Limited, our official beverage sponsor. In addition to this, our distinguished lecturer has a package for all of us. So endeavor to take your pack as you exit the hall, which means that you need to be a little patient as you exit so that you can have your pack. After the university anthem, please remain standing for the platform party to recess, after which we can all move out to join them for group photographs. On behalf of the university, we are grateful to all of you who have joined us here in the Great Hall and online for this lecture, and we look forward to having you at our future events. Once again, thank you very much. Shall we rise for the university anthem, please? Yes, sir.